review real quick, and we'll be ready to take our chapter test shortly after. So this first page is talking about bias and unbiased samples. We're trying to figure out, what would be a good bias or a good sample for a population, whatever that might be. Okay. And remember, to be unbiased, it has to be random, it has to be a big number, and it has to be fair. Okay. So, number one, you want to estimate the number of students in a high school who are in a club. Which sample is the best? So, 80 juniors. That's too specific. Can't just be juniors. 150 random students during lunch periods. That's pretty good. 4 students in the hallway. Not good enough. All students on the swim team. Too specific to the swim team. So, random students at lunch would be a good one. Okay. So, number 2, kind of the same thing, is Ashley is surveying every 5th person who walks into Sky Zone to determine the most popular YouTube star. Which statement best describes this? So, the sample is biased because she only surveys 6 people. Well, it didn't really tell us how many, so that's not it. The sample is unbiased. Well, I don't know about that yet. Letter C, the sample is biased because she only surveys adults. Well, didn't say that was true. And then D, the sample is biased because she only surveys people at Sky Zone. Now this makes sense because interviewing people at Sky Zone, you got to think about who's going to Sky Zone. Okay, people going to Sky Zone are usually little kids, teenagers, and that's not fair to just interview those people because everybody watches YouTube. So the most popular YouTube star could be anyone, not just who kids and teenagers watch. Okay. So, number 3 says Tina is outside of Chick-11 taking a survey on the most popular fast food restaurant. She is asking everyone who enters which fast food restaurant is their favorite. Which statement is true? The sample is unbiased? Well, maybe. The sample is biased because she is only asking people at one restaurant. That makes a whole lot of sense. If you want to know what's your favorite fast food restaurant, well, it's not fair for you to ask people going into a fast food restaurant. Okay? So, what about number 4? It says Nico wants to determine the amount of time freshman students spend on social media each day. Which sample method would be most unbiased? Surveying 4 best friends? No, not enough people. Surveyed 20 girls in a math class? Nope. Survey 14 boys in his math class? No. And survey 200 random freshman students. So we're talking about freshmen, and we're talking 200 of them. So that is very unbiased. Okay? There we go. All right. So the last 2, we have Gerline wants to figure out out the soft drink that is most popular with students in her school. She selected 200 random students to survey during lunch to ask them their favorite soft drink. Identify the population. So this was a confusing point. So these are basically the exact same questions, 5 and 6. What's the population? What's the sample? Okay. All the ones we've been doing, we are taking a sample of the population. So the population is the whole thing. So 200 random students is a sample of all the students. So the population is D, where sample is 200 random students. That's the sample of the whole population. Okay. So on to the next page here. We have number 7. It says use the information to fill out the table. So it says 60 students were randomly surveyed from the local school on whether they are in choir and play a sport. So 60 students, that's the total. Now we go from there. 20 students play a sport. Okay, there's 20 15 students are in choir and do not play a sport. So that's 15. 5 students play a sport and are not in choir. So that's 5 right here. And that's enough information to go ahead and fill out the rest. So I start to put it together. 60 minus 20 is 40 here. And then going up and down here, if this is 20 here, then this has to be 15 because 20 minus 5 is 15. 40 minus 15 here is going to be 25. And then if we go to the right, 15 plus 15 on top is 30 total. And then 5 plus 25 is also 30, which makes sense because these two add up to 30, or 60, I mean, and these two add up to 60 as well. And now we can answer the questions. How many students are in choir? Well, in choir, that's going to be 30. There it is. How many students are in choir and do not play a sport? And that would be 15 right there. What percent of students in choir? So first you need to make sure you know students in choir is 30 and play a sport. So in choir, play a sport is 15. So 15 divided by 30 is 0.5. So I make that a percent, which is 50%. And what percent of the total students surveyed play a sport? Total students, that's 60. And then play a sport is 20. So you divide that, and it's 0.33, so 33%. Okay, there we go. So our next one, we have calculate the relative frequencies. Relative frequencies is talking about the percent out of the total. So everything is out of 50. So I have 6 divided by 50. That's going to be 12%. 26 divided by 50. That's going to be 52%. 32 divided by 50. That's going to be 64%. 4 is going to be 8%. 14, that's going to be 28%. I'm dividing everything by 50. 18 divided by 50, that's 36%. 10 divided by 50, that's 20%. And 40 out of 50 is 80%. And then 50 out of 50 is always 100%. Okay? And so it's asking us a few specific questions. What percent of the students prefer waffles? Well, if you look at waffles right here, total is 80%. What percent of students are freshmen? So over here, total freshmen, 64%. What percent of the students are freshmen and prefer pancakes? And that's 12%. So very specific. What percentage of students prefer waffles and are sophomores? Waffles and sophomores, 28%. And then this last one says, is 32 joint or marginal frequency? So remember, with joint and marginal, the ones on the specific part are joint, and the ones on the the total part are marginal. Okay, so if you look at 32, that's in the marginal part of our study guide or our table. And then 4 is on the specific part. So that is joint frequency. Okay. There we go. And so our last page, we're talking best fit line for scatter plots. So this one says Ava lives on a farm. She's been recording number of eggs each chicken lays. So age of the chicken is here, and then number of eggs is here. So does this scatter plot show positive, negative, or no correlation? Well, you can kind of see this best fit line is pretty good, and it's going downhill from left to right. So that is negative correlation. Using the best fit line, predict how old a chicken is if they lay 2 eggs. So looking at 2 eggs, I'm going to take that all the way to the point right there, and that is going to be 11 years old. Okay. How old? 11 years. Is this an example of interpolation or extrapolation? So if you look at your data, it stops right here and here, and the point we used was outside of that data. So that's going to be extrapolation. Okay. There we go. And so if you look at the next one, we're kind of doing the same thing. Selena is having a surprise party, and we've got the time in minutes and the number of balloons. Okay, we're trying to figure out how many balloons there are going to be. Does this represent positive, negative, or no correlation? Again, it's going uphill, so it looks like it's going to be positive this time. Going up. Using the best fit line, predict how many balloons she can blow up in 20 minutes. So look at 20 minutes. And it looks like about 7 or 8. You wouldn't be really counted off either way. But 7 or 8 is a good prediction. Okay? And look at your interpolation or extrapolation. Here's your first and last data, and this point was inside of those. So this one is actually interpolation. Okay? And so our last one, this one should be easier than it looks once you kind of figure out what that is. So this is your correlation coefficient. So remember what it says is this is a strong positive, because 1 is what our goal is. So strong positive, pretty strong negative. Okay? So this one is pretty strong. This one's really strong. So that should kind of give you a clue, and which one's negative, which one's positive should also give you a clue. So B is negative and A is positive, which that kind of gives it away there. But the 1 needs to be the one that's strong and going right with the line, where negative 0.9 is pretty good, but not right on the line. Okay? And so that's about it. So we have our test. So good luck on the test, and do your